Hi guys, welcome to the snapping tool. In this video we're going to learn another way for you guys to constrain your movement. We're going to be using the snapping tool to do that. So I'll show you how to snap objects into place and how to tell it what to snap to, and controlling whether or not you merge vertices when you put two things on top of one another. So let's hop over into Blender. So I don't want to start adding random things to our pyramid. So let's open up a new Blender file. So I'm going to go and save my pyramid first. As always, saving is important. I'm going to go to New and load up a new Blender file. So we have one cube here. By default, snapping is turned off, and you can find the snapping tool along the 3D editor header towards the right hand side. It looks like a picture of a magnet. And when it's turned on, it even looks more like a magnet, and that's exactly what it is. And we can see the shortcut is Shift and Tab. Now, this is one of those shortcuts which is incredibly useful, because when we start moving our object, this 3D editor header disappears. So let's demonstrate that now. If I go and move my cube, you can see snapping's actually turned on, and it's actually snapping to the grid in front of us. So it's moving one Blender unit at a time in a random direction. If we constrain it to Z, it'll be locked in the Z axis. So by knowing Shift and Tab, we can turn that on and off to our heart's content, even if we've started the movement without it being turned on. Perfect. So the other options, what else can we snap to? Well, we're going to need something else to snap this cube to, and we can pick faces, edge or vertex. So let's generate another cube in our scene. And let's lift that up, and we can see snapping's turned on. That's kind of cheating because of course I can align that absolutely perfect. There we go, perfectly aligned. But we want to know how to use these other options here. So let's make it not so perfect and dump it some random place over there. Because once you've done that and you start moving it with the snapping turned on, they won't line up again because it's one Blender unit relative to where its new position was. So if we pick a face and we can then move this model, I'm just using moving as an example, but it can be any one of the rotation, scaling, etc. If I move the cursor over this face and click, that cube is now against that face perfectly. If I wanted to be a bit more precise, I could go to edge, and when I go to move it then, do bear in mind the position of your cursor. It's going to be very snappy and jerk all over the place if the cursor's over the top of your object when you start the move. But if the cursor's away from your object, then you can place it over and you can see it ping, snaps into place. And now those two cubes are basically they're face planted together, which is great, and these edges are on top of one another. So I could grab it and lower it down to this edge, or I could be even more precise and going, I want to vertex, I want to snap to the vertex, and down in this bottom corner here. So again, we can move it and point it at that and click, and now these two cubes are exactly aligned. The final thing to mention here is if we join these two objects together so they become one object and then go into edit mode, we can see they've still got 16 vertices. So let's go and combine another cube and see what happens when we've got the automatically merge vertices moved to the same location toggle turned on, and that's this button next to the snapping tools to the right. So let's generate another cube whilst in edit mode. Let's move it over there so we can see there's 36 edges. Now if we move it so it's against this cube and let go, it drops down to 32 edges, and it's become part of the thing we've snapped it to. Now there are going to be times where you do want that to happen, and there are going to be times that you don't want that to happen. Remember, if you do want to go back later on, you can always go down and remove doubles in your scene, but if you know that you want it to be joined together straight away, so then we can lift this one up by a Blender unit and create kind of a ducting type shape, then brilliant, you can do that straight away without having to go over and remove doubles and then do it. So one final thing with snapping. So I'm just going to add, I'm going to go into object mode here and just add another cube to our scene. And it's just placed it where the 3D cursor happens to be. I'm just going to drag it out of the way here. Now I'm going to turn the snapping to vertex, and we're going to use that and make sure the snapping's on. And notice to the right of it is closest. Now what that basically means is if I start to move this, so I'm going to press the G key for moving, and I move it close to this edge here, you see it snaps. But I want this vertex, this one in the corner here, to snap to that one there. And you can see when I'm moving it, it's not doing that, it's moving the other one across. So occasionally you have to wiggle things about. Now that this vertex here is the closest to this one, when I try and move it and move my cursor over that corner, it snaps in place. And that's similar if you need to place something. If I need to put that vertex in that corner just there, and let's say I want to place it all the way over this side, and I just use G and move it here, you see that the cube ends up right on the other one, and I don't want that. So you need to move it to this side of it so that this vertex is closest, and then press G to move and move it across and snap it in place. So it can be a bit picky at times if one of your vertex is closer than the other, or edge is closer. And there are a couple of other options here, but generally closest is good enough to get you there. So play about with snapping and you'll soon get the hang of which bit will snap to what, and if you need to move something, like here, if I wanted to now move it to this one here, well that's not what I want at all, so I move it across here, and probably going to have to shove it along here a little, and then grab it and move it across. I've now got it in place. So it can be a bit picky, but you'll get the hang of it in no time at all. So let's hop over to our pyramid and do a little challenge. So what would I like you to do with your pyramid? Well, we're going to create that ramp now and merge it in with the rest of our model. So using the snapping tool, I'd like you to extrude your ramp to the right height, and then join up the top and bottom edges so that the bottom edge meets the floor and the top edge meets the actual step at the very top. So it's a continuous ramp from the top step to the floor, and I do suggest keeping it a 45-degree ramp. This is all part of planning our model, because if we make it anything but a 45-degree ramp, the steps that we're going to put on it in a bit will be much more difficult to make, because we're going to have to do a different ratio to step, not one up and one across. More on that later. Let's pause the video now and go try making your ramp. Welcome back. Let's hop over into Blender. So let's open up our pyramid. Let's go ahead and select our ramp and extrude it up. But how far do we extrude? Well, let's have a look. Let's switch straight over into orthographic projection and have a look at our model from the side. So let's extrude up, and it's going to be about there, so it's level with those steps. So we're going to have to turn the snapping tool on for a start. We're going to need to line it up with an edge somewhere. So let's extrude up and select this leading edge here at the very top, and that's lifted it up to the right height, but unfortunately it hasn't joined it at the top or the bottom, so we need to do that now. So we can select the top edge, make sure edge snapping is turned on, and literally move one over the other, and it's going to snap in place. Now before I do that, I'm just going to press escape to cancel the move. I'm going to merge the vertices because I do want that to become one object. So I'm going to move it again over the top there, and click. There we go. So that's all together. That's the top bit done. However, let's go to the bottom one now and see what we can do there. Let's go all the way down here. So we can see, because we've planned our model to be one by one by one, and we know this is a very it's a very geometric shape, it's perfect because we can just go straight back. Because we zoomed in, we've got all of these smaller squares. We can switch back to increment, grab the front edge here, flip back to the side, and go down a little until we're flat with the floor, and then out until we're level with one blender unit. And let's zoom back out, and we've got our step completed, almost. I'm going to switch back to perspective mode. We need to change the normals for our step. We've inadvertently created something with the normals pointing inwards. I can tell that by the colour, but you can double check by turning the little hairs for the normals on. However, I'm just going to select my entire model and use the shortcut keys Control and N to make sure that all of my normals are facing outwards. I'm going to deselect and just check it over again. That looks perfect. How did you guys get on? I shall see you in the next lecture.